It's common to believe that our elders, especially our parents, deserve a certain amount of respect, no matter how grown we get. But if you're out here still letting your parents have a greater say in how you live your life than you do, that isn't healthy. It's hindering your progress. And, to a certain extent, it's keeping you in a child status in their mind as well. Today on rLounge, you're adults now. Time to act like it. Up first, at what age should we start sleeping in our own beds? Just know mother-in-law staying overnight and asking me or significant other to share a bed with her, and the other one who's not sharing bed with her to sleep on the air bed. Just to be clear, significant other and I have a one-bedroom place. We have a double-sized air bed, which is perfectly functioning. I got so shocked when significant other told me this. Even my own mother wouldn't ask to sleep with me and let significant others sleep in an air bed. I don't like my mother-in-law, but we maintain civil. I am definitely not going to share a bed with her, and I feel extremely uncomfortable that a mother sleeps on the same bed with her adult son. Significant other doesn't really care though, and said he could share the bed with mother-in-law. To avoid the problem, I'm planning on staying with a friend myself, or find a hotel for myself, but also feel it's unfair that I can't stay in my own house. Also, I wanted to add that mother-in-law has bipolar and possibly undiagnosed personality disorder. Everyone in the family tiptoes around her because a meltdown is scary. We live far enough so we don't interact much. I can put up with it during family gatherings, but it's really crossing my boundaries this time. Any advice will be appreciated. I'm also considering looking a hotel Airbnb for her, but it is quite pricey as it's a public holiday weekend. Update. Thank you all so much for the replies and support. Sorry I couldn't reply everyone. I really gained a lot of insights into this and know what to do now. A bit more context. We are in our late 20s and my mother-in-law is in her 50s. She doesn't have mobility issues. I haven't actually had a chance to think about the plan before she asks. If she just tells us she doesn't like the airbed, we could have squeezed around the couch and airbed and let her have the main bed all to herself. We also could have booked her a hotel. It's just a question that weirded me out. It's going to be hard to tell her all this, but I do see now if we back down, she's not going to know how we actually feel and will always try to have things her way. My brother-in-law has a girlfriend who doesn't care how she thinks and doesn't show up to family and events invited. Mother-in-law hates her and leaves her alone besides complaining beside her. She's always said how much nicer I am, but I wish I could be more like that girl. Sharing a bed is weird. You're adults, not children. Even though it's expensive, I feel like it's worth it. Why not ask her to split the price with you? You're either paying for her to stay somewhere or paying for you to stay somewhere. You're spending the same amount of money. And if she's not okay with it, just say the other option is the air mattress or the couch. If she doesn't like that, it's too bad for her. Would you share a bed with your mother-in-law? Next, a mother-in-law has a tantrum when her evil scheme to exclude fails. Update. Just know mother-in-law bought tickets for her families to a show and didn't include me. 29 female here. My mother-in-law bought tickets for a show for her son, my husband's birthday. She was letting me know the day they are coming and said she didn't buy me one because she didn't think I'd like it. On the day, she wanted to come to our house, have food with us, and then take her sons and her husband to the show. She was probably expecting that I'd just be fine with it. Honestly, I don't really care about this show, but the way she did it really pissed me off. Never asked if I'd like to come. Now that she saw I'm not happy, she started crying and said she didn't do it on purpose. She said she could buy a ticket for me, but there's no seat near them anymore. I said, well, I could just buy 2 tickets for my husband and me. She then said she wanted to sit next to her son during the show, and then I could maybe sit with her other son somewhere else. Of course, I wasn't happy about it. Husband wasn't either. Mother-in-law cried on the phone with him that she really didn't mean it. She proposed that she doesn't come anymore and just let us go. But we certainly wouldn't do that to her, and that'll ruin the show and the day. Eventually, my husband got all tickets refunded and bought more tickets for all of us in another area. We covered all the extra cost. I really don't know what to think anymore. Mother-in-law isn't my favorite person, and I always struggle to fit into their family dynamic. They keep saying they really like me and see me as family. So far, I've always made the effort to see them, join family events, and be very friendly. There's been some tough moments throughout the years, but I've let them pass because they say they like me. Now I don't see the point anymore. Just really sad. I'm from a different country and for many reasons haven't seen my own family for 2 years, and likely won't see them in the coming year either. I've always told myself that it's fine. My in-laws like me and they are my family too. This incident just really reminded me that they are not. This decision is not my mother-in-law's alone. It's definitely passed through my father-in-law, grandmother-in-law, and brother-in-law. None of them saw any problem. They never told my husband because this was supposed to be a birthday surprise for him. My mom will never do this to me, and I miss her so much. Update. Thank you all so much for the replies and advice. I hesitated posting at first, but really glad I did. I truly feel encouraged and empowered. Not being able to see my families more because of political reasons, being in literal lockdown still, but I'm booking the tickets when it opens. I've been drawing the picture that I'm loved and welcomed by my in-laws to my parents, so they don't worry about me. I haven't been talking to them about this, so feeling like no one is truly on my side. Apologies, I can't get back to every comment. About some of those comments, Honest Invite 7065 says, defo not overreacting, but let's not mention the gaslighting. Ness18518 says, wow, I am so sorry. I can only imagine how this would make me feel. She definitely meant to do it. I'd go very low contact and wait for an opportunity to do the same to her. Lurking McLurkface says, I read your other post also. You're definitely not overreacting. This is a straight up intentionally mean thing to do to someone, and she definitely did it to exclude you. Maybe it's her mental illness. Maybe she's just a mean person. Maybe it's a combination of both. I would be really tempted to limit your contact until she gets a more effective treatment plan. I'm sorry, OP. Screw her. This was definitely a power move on her part and totally disrespectful, and she totally meant it. So that's a load of BS. You absolutely don't have to make an effort if they aren't. That's just something society tells us we have to do. But really, we don't need to subject ourselves to people like that. We need to do what's best for us. Create those boundaries. Do your in-laws do things like this to you? Have you ever been purposely left out of something? Let us know in the comments below. Our next mother-in-law thinks she's got a medical degree. Mother-in-law helped ruin my marriage. So when I had my daughter in 1988, my mother-in-law asked my daughter my blood types, to me, A positive, and by mistake I say my daughter is A negative. She said, what's going on? 2 positives, husband being O positive, don't make a negative. I told her I must have remembered wrong, so next doctor visit for baby, I get a copy from the actual doctor with my daughter's blood type. She's A positive. Until the day my mother-in-law died 25 years later, she never accepted my daughter as her grandchild and constantly tried to convince my husband I cheated to the point he believed her and revenge cheated because it's only fair, right? During the child support hearing, he actually told them he shouldn't pay child support for my daughter because she wasn't his. When asked why he believed it, he said she's A negative, so she can't be mine. How wrong he was. It only cost him $500 to be told she is your daughter and you will pay child support. 1 month later, he called me telling me how much he missed me, and now that he knows I didn't cheat and she is his child, we can start over. He can start being a father to her. I told him, hell no, go live with your mom, who by the way, still didn't believe my daughter was blood related. Wow, so your mother-in-law thought she was a doctor. Meh, who needs someone like that anyways? She just had it against you and unfortunately she took it out against her grandchild. But I personally wouldn't want a grandparent in my life who was that shallow. Good riddance. What's your relationship with your grandparents like? And lastly, sometimes it's better to raise hell than attend a family barbecue. Skip the barbecue and raise hell? My mother-in-law is the classic narcissistic enmeshment that all mother-in-laws are that grace this sub with their behavior. That being said, I'm looking for some insight. Mother-in-law invited us to a family barbecue with lots of out-of-town family I have never met and dear husband hasn't seen in a while. Essentially, this entire side of the family has kept their distance for years. I couldn't imagine why. And now we're doing a cookout thing for the whole fam-damly. Mother-in-law gave us a heads up about a month ago. I was never really formally asked directly from her, just mentioned to dear husband and passed along to me that we apparently have to go. I work night shift in healthcare. This evening has been an especially exhausting, stressful shift with no breaks for 12 hours of round-the-clock fun. I also work the next 2 days, which are guaranteed to be like tonight, or worse. Big Family Cookout 2022 is tomorrow, and of course it's at noon. I won't be able to get to bed until at least 9 a.m. The cookout starts at 12 p.m., which means I'll have to get up around 11 a.m. and last till whenever the F it ends. I go back in at 6 p.m. that night. Mother-in-law has thrown aggressive tantrums about me not attending family functions in the past to the point she's texted me, "Where are you, little girl?" To which I replied, I was exhausted and I needed to rest. Childlike behavior and a chewing out of my dear husband of legendary proportions took place. I don't want to put him in that position. I don't want to go and feel like death warmed over being pretend cheery around a bunch of people I don't know and will likely not ever see again. Should I skip the barbecue and raise hell, or suck it up and attend for a few hours? Am I just being a wimp? Red Python Goon has a reply. None of you should go. That sounds awful. RJ says, I'd skip. It's incredible how many people think night shift isn't the same as any other shift. Just at night, you still need a full amount of sleep. Wonderful Surprise 90 adds, you are under no obligation to go to a family event. Ever. Being sleep deprived in your job is already bad on you and the people you take care of. Your husband needs to put her in her place. She needs to shut her trap about your attendance, and she is not to text you about not being there. If your husband goes, that's good enough. If he doesn't go, oh well. Just because they are family doesn't mean to drop everything you are doing for them. She knows what you do for a living. She should be proud of you and brag about how hard you work. Stay your butt in bed. Apprehensive Way 837 chimes in, you're not being a wimp to not want to be around those toxic people. And when she texts you, just ignore the witch. Let dear husband go, and he can socialize with his side of the family. You don't need to justify doing what is right for you and your mental health. Magician's Friend pulls this out of thin air. Take yourself out of the equation for a minute. You're hearing a news story about a healthcare professional who is under investigation for making a dangerous mistake at work. The investigation uncovers that she was at a family party that day when she would normally have been sleeping. Mother-in-law is called as a witness and is asked, "We understand that OP went to your gathering." In spite of not wanting to and knowing it would compromise her work because of pressure from her wimpy dear husband who was afraid of your reaction. What do you suppose mother-in-law would say in front of people she can't intimidate?
"Oh, I just didn't know how important it was for her not to come. I would never expect her to choose little old me over work."
So put those words in her mouth. Contact everyone you know who's going to be there preemptively. Tell them you won't be there and how much you'll miss them. As for putting your dear husband in that position, your job is taking care of so many people. His job here is to take care of you. He's not a sick patient. He's your grown-up partner. You don't have to be his mommy, even if the one he was issued sucks. Definitely skip the barbecue. Why would you want to subject yourself to those kinds of people anyway? You have responsibilities, and that means going to work and getting the proper rest that you need. She's doing that stuff to manipulate you and guilt you into not going. If you don't respond the way she expects you to, that gives you the power back. Ignore her ways. She has no control over you. Once you ignore her, she becomes powerless. Get the sleep and rest you need. You'll be much happier for it. You don't have to do anything you don't want to. You're not children. If your husband wants to go, they can go without you. Would you go? Thank you for joining us today on rLounge. Before you go, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you have something you want to say regarding today's content, share that with us in the comments below. See you soon.